Get your tickets now for the 23rd annual edition of the OUTshine LGBTQ Plus Film Festival, happening April 23rd to May 2nd. Don't miss our incredible grand opening drive-in event, followed by 10 days of non-stop films from here and all around the world that you can watch at home. Watch trailers and get your tickets at OUTshineFilm.com now.
Welcome to OUTshine Virtual Film Festival, our Miami edition. I'm Jen Kritz, the board vice chair, and we're thrilled to have the filmmakers and cast from the feature film Ma Belle, My Beauty here at OUTshine. Please welcome Marion Hill, the director, Idella Johnson, who plays Birdie, Hannah Pepper, who plays Lane, Lucien Guignard, who plays Fred. And we are hoping to have Sivan, Noam, Shimon as well join us. And here she is. Welcome, all of you. Thank you guys so much for coming. First of all, a big congratulations on your audience award in the next category at Sundance. That is such a huge honor. So congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
So Marion, you are the writer and the director. The writing is extremely nuanced. It's rich, beautiful writing. What was the spark that inspired you to create this film about polyamory?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think my main goal was to create a love story that would be enjoyable to watch, for folks, but also something very thought-provoking. And in discovering my characters and all the complexity of their queerness and their identities, polyamory was just kind of a natural component of these people that I was with all these actors creating. And it was an interesting endeavor to create a love story where the conflict isn't necessarily, being in the closet, an angry husband, things like that. So it forced us to kind of look inside our characters more than I think most love stories do.
Well, on that note of polyamory, there's a very interesting line that I made note of earlier, and that's from Lane, where she says towards the end, she goes, "I want all of it. I want all of you." Do you feel that polyamory is a lasting proposition when, so often people eventually want 100% of one of the people they're with?
I'm going to invite Hannah to take this one if you want, Hannah.
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting because I did not interpret that question as being specifically about polyamory. I don't think love and relationships are a zero-sum game. And I actually think that thinking of anyone's love or energy or being as 100%, and then you take some out of it, some people get some people get another, I think is a really not great road to go down, whatever style of a relationship you're in. I really think in that moment, Lane wants full presence with Birdie when they're together. I think that's what she means when she says, "I want all of it, all of you." So it's less about sharing and more about what the two of them have in their dynamic that actually isn't diminished by any of the other characters in any of the other relationships, but is just about the container that the two of them have created for their love, what Lane wants it to hold, and what Birdie actually feels that it can hold in that moment.
I think it's such an incredible topic for a film because it's so rich with complexity all the time. Whether it's, I got confused watching a few different sections just because I wasn't sure, are they wanting to be with just one person? Is this all a game? To make sure that Birdie, picks one. And it sounds by what you're saying, Hannah, that wasn't in fact the case. Another thing I noticed about this, and by the way, I love that it's so thought-provoking. It's just an incredible film. Another question I had is, I noticed you had a very diverse cast, many languages, many cultures, and different race and all of that. Was that a conscious decision when you were creating these characters, Marion, or did it just happen organically?
I think it's, you know, very, as a person of color who has moved through many cultures in life, it is very, not necessarily, you know, on purpose, but is kind of just what comes to my stories. And I guess specifically, you know, in this film, we were dealing with a small European town that's, you know, pretty rural, not a lot of people, and kind of bringing Americans into that world. And for me, I was really excited. I knew that hadn't really been done before, to bring a woman of color from the South into the European South that is predominantly white. And, you know, my mother had a similar experience in that town. And so, yeah, and I was excited to see how, you know, to explore how a relationship is affected by those kinds of dynamics, where one person is clearly kind of othered by the community and one person is very much of the community, and what that does to their relationship.
Well, the acting is spectacular. And it's very interesting how you mentioned that your mother grew up in a similar community or even the same community. Were you, in choosing your casting, who did you start with? Which character did you cast first, and what was your casting process?
Yeah, I started with Idella, I think. Yes. You know, Birdie was very much the anchor around whom to you know, populate the polycule. So yeah, and for me, you know, I will definitely, being based in New Orleans, and my whole filmmaking family is here in New Orleans. My chosen family is here in New Orleans. It was important to me to have a Birdie that kind of was from within my community, and same went for Hannah. Is very much part of my community here in New Orleans. And then Sivan and Lucien were just a beautiful, you know, addition to the polycule, like I said.
Idella, a very important component of the story is how Birdie loses her passion for singing and how it comes back through Lane's return. First of all, tell us about your singing background, as you do all of your own vocals. And I mean, your voice is mesmerizing.
Thank you. Yes, well, I grew up singing in church. And from then on, when I went to college, I started studying jazz and classical, and then moved on to musical theater, and then spent several years doing musical theater. So I have a huge background in that. And yeah, it's just been all my life. I've been singing since a kid, since I was able to talk, actually. And by the time I, you know, started, you know, seeking a career, acting kind of really taken off for me. And yeah, so what was the second part of the question?
Oh, I don't recall anymore.
I don't even know how it's the.
But since you bring it up, and this is such a huge part of your character, singing, Marion, did you write this specifically knowing you had to find a singer for this role? And, you know, or was this one of those things that you guys worked with together?
I believe, you know, I think it was very much all being created at the same time. So I think if Idella had shown up, you know, being a flute player, Birdie would have been a flute player. And I think it was pretty serendipitous that, you know, in my mind, she was a singer. And then Idella was like, oh yeah, I sing.
Yeah.
It worked out.
Yeah. And I think the second part of the question, you said something about her losing her passion.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that was Marion had wrote that in. We held conversations a lot of around the fact that what is it like when an artist start to kind of, you know, when they're going through something, depression and stuff like that, what happens to their artistry, and so we played around with that idea, and yeah, um, it's it's actually a very realistic thing that happens. It actually happened to me in real life before. So whenever you're going through situations like of loss, you can tend to lose, not really lose your gift, but can't access it if that makes any sense. And so I think that's what it was. She was grappling with, you know, her emotions, and it was hard for her to access the joy in singing.
Well, you mentioned the depression, which you see at the beginning, and then of course Lane's character comes in and completely disrupts Birdie's life. You know, Lane seems very confident. She seems to know who she is at all times. Hannah, tell me, how do you believe this trait affected your relationship with Birdie, who seems to be struggling emotionally with her decisions? And what was it like to play a character like that?
I think that's an interesting question because I feel that Lane is someone who exudes confidence because she doesn't know what she's doing, if that makes sense. So you see her, you hear that she's one of these sort of transplants who has an on-again, off-again relationship with New Orleans. She's left, she's come back, she left Birdie, she dated somebody else. She thinks she might want to go to massage therapy, which, judging by Birdie and Fred's reaction, that's a new thing for her. So I think that there's a special blend of self-consciousness and self-confidence that Lane has that I've seen alive in people in the world, which is, I might not know where I'm going to be tomorrow, but I can be really enthusiastically present and confident with you here right now. And I think that that is a powerful exchange, and why I think Lane and Birdie can have such a present heated relationship that doesn't necessarily have the same sort of long-term staying power. Like, it might not be the right model for them to be the consistent person that they're waking up and going to bed with every day, but I think it's meaningful for Lane to touch down to Birdie, who is building into her passion over time, and for Birdie to touch down into Lane, who is living a little more sort of from one thing to one thing, but at least on the outset doesn't seem to second guess herself so much and can really sink into a present moment, enjoy the wine, enjoy the conversation, enjoy, you know, the physicality of the people around her.
Well, another character that seems to be very much full of life, of course, would be Sivan's character, Noah. By the way, Sivan, congratulations on your amazing film, Blush. We showed that at our festival about 4 or 5 years ago. It was amazing. Thank you. So in this film, you play a very different character from that character. You know, what was it like to come in and play that smooth, sexy siren who just, you know, attracts everybody's attention, everyone?
But that's a very good observation, actually. I think it's one of the more different roles that I've had a chance to play. I get more, I get more of a good girl kind of roles, the more observing type, which was super refreshing to be a type that actually walks into a scene and tries to demand attention and to provoke and and it was a very different approach, and it was a very keeps you on your feet, you know. Gives like it's you have to be, as an actor, or me, I aspire to be, you know, to feel what my character feels. So it was very high energy all the time, which is a lot of fun. Kind of demands you to be in a good place.
Yeah, your character is exceptional, and I can't imagine anybody else playing it but you, having seen this role. It's just amazing that this is the first time you played that role. Lucien, there's always a question of whether Fred's motives are to help Birdie for her or to help his band. You know, she's not feeling well, you know, he feels she's depressed. He calls Lane out, you know, to help Birdie, but it's so that she can, you know, regain this voice. And I mean, does Fred realize he's potentially putting his marriage at risk?
Well, it is a very interesting question. I think he realizes that he may lose Birdie, although he trusts her and he trusts the relationship. But I think for me, my interpretation is that the fact that Birdie starts singing again and that Birdie is back to life basically is more important than anything. And it's more important than anything for her, and it's also more important than anything for me. I think I truly love her. I truly want her happiness.
Well, there's an amazing scene where you're talking to Birdie, or your character is, and you say, you're different when Lane is here. You like to impress her. It's nice. And she says, do you wish I did more of that for you? And you say, well, you used to do that for me, but never like you did for her. Lucien, what was your take on, I mean, this is getting back to Marion's exceptional writing. You know, when you read something like that and you're portraying something like that, what is that like for you as an actor?
What do you mean? Sorry.
Well, I mean, just and how did you envelop that character who loves her so much, but realizes that she, in a way, gives more to Lane?
Well, there's something. I mean, where it resonated in me is something. You know, we say after 3 years, we stop in a relationship. We stop trying to seduce each other that much. I mean, that's just to say, right? But it's accepting that the relation changed and feeling blessed for what it is right now, I guess. And I mean, accepting that what it is right now is better than nothing for me, for Fred.
Yeah, I would just add to that thanks, Lucien, that, you know, that's one of the key pillars of polyamory, you know, is to embrace what feels good about your relationship, and you know, not expect certain things that we traditionally prescribe to a long relationship, you know, that you have to, you know, continue finding ways to have sex, you know, or continue finding ways to appear attractive to each other, and getting to a point with a person where maybe that's not, you know, a big part of your relationship anymore, but they both seem very comfortable with that and happy with that.
Well, that also gets a little bit to what's so interesting about the dynamic between Lane and Birdie, which is that Birdie seems most attracted to Lane when Lane is ignoring her, or finds Sivan's character, Noah, to be, you know, grabbing her attention. Why, Marion, tell me, why did you put that into the characters, this cat and mouse relationship?
cat and mouse. I think, you know, I was interested in what longing does to people, whether it's sexual longing, emotional longing, you know, and specifically what it does to creative people. And I guess this is where the muse conversation kind of comes in that we all had actually the other day. But yeah, I think it was a very, something I've experienced before is to, you know, have a new spark with someone really drive my creativity in a way that, you know, if I'm not meeting anyone new, which COVID has honestly been difficult for this past year, has been a tricky creative for me personally, just because I'm not meeting new people. I'm not feeling inspired by new dynamics. And I think that's really actually what makes Birdie tick, is to have, you know, these awakenings happening inside her. And Fred kind of knows that about her.
Marion, what were you hoping to share with the world by creating these particular characters? And I'm curious to hear each actor's take on it as well.
Yeah, should we start with them?
Start with Idella.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please? I'm sorry.
I was curious, you know, what in enveloping these characters during the filming of this, what is it that you wish for the audience to take away from your character and to learn from?
I would think that it's okay to love how you want to love, and to and boundaries are very important. And yeah, I just would want people to just relate to her, you know, in a very, you know, because she's a real person. And you know, I think she's in a very real, relatable circumstance that anyone can relate to. And so I think I just would want people to just, yeah, to just be willing to just take that journey, you know, and just really enjoy, you know, the film.
What about you, Hannah?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. My hope is that I was able to portray the character with enough interiority that people could have authentic experiences of how they felt about how she showed up, what she did, what her choices were, and that could bring up something for people to dialogue with interiorly or with others in their lives. I don't think Lane is any kind of example of how to live or how to love. I just think she's an example of a person who is trying to live and trying to love. So my experience of her was, you know, sometimes she did stuff that I was like, yeah, this seems like something I would do. I get that. Sometimes she did things where I was like, wow, I would walk away from you right now, never look back. So I think that that's what I think is hopefully most powerful about the film, is that, yeah, for people to have authentic relationships with these characters who are just trying to figure it out like we all are.
What about you, Sivan?
Well, actually, I think that when I see queer films, through the history of queer films, there was a very big tendency for like really sad movies and like coming out, like really difficult coming out stories, which was important to share. And as an overall experience, you tend to think that those types of queer films always entitle hardship, and there was something being a part of a project that actually celebrates sexuality and celebrates queer sexuality as opposed to dealing with it and you know, going around it and all its hardships. It's kind of a celebration of all these types of sexualities and cultures and different positions about how do my character think about polyamory. Like Noah comes with a different angle. She doesn't understand. She knows what's an open relationship, but she doesn't understand polyamory, and her kind of being so bold is going into that trio in a sense that, like Hannah said, you know, maybe as a person I wouldn't have gotten near that mess, but being like kind of embodying a character that does interact, that does say, okay, I'm gonna crash and burn, and yeah, and just like I think what I would want the viewers to get is just being playful and going for what you want, and not grabbing queerness is something difficult to handle.
What about you, Lucien? What was it like being the man among all the women? The women chasing after you.
Well, amongst all these very powerful, very deep women, and for me, what really touched me first, what really moved me first was, so I read the script and I wanted to tell the characters, just speak your heart, communicate, tell what's under the line that is not said. That would just make it so much easier. And I think this is a very good expression of what happens in real life. And I think what I would like to say through this film, through this character, is in any sort of relationship, and even without relationship, one has to learn to love oneself and accept when feelings are not agreeable, and have the courage. I think it's very much about courage. Have the courage to, accept when it's not okay, go with it, learn, love, anyhow.
Well, I have to just say, you were all so beautiful and captivating on film. And Marion, you writing this script that, again, it was just so beautifully written. As Lucien was saying, there's, you know, you almost had to act in, you know, because a lot of stuff was unsaid. It was very subtle. It was done, which is why it tied in so beautifully. The acting was just wonderful to watch. I absolutely loved it. Marion, I know you must be working on something new at this point, or maybe it's too soon, but you have a huge future with this being your first full feature film. And Idella, Hannah, Sivan, Lucien, thank you all so much for taking the time to be on this virtual chat with the rest of us here at OUTshine. We look forward to seeing more of all of you in film. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great festival.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.